All right, guys, the day is here. Swordburst 3 alpha release. We're going to be checking it out, and we're going to be giving our honest first impressions of the game. We're going to be seeing if it's worth it. Should you be buying it? And hopefully this video will help you know if you want to drop 400 Robux or you want to wait and everything like that. We're going to see what the game looking like. So, personally, before I even touch the game, just based on what I've seen and based on what I know, I personally don't think the game is currently worth 400 Robux. If you have 400 Robux, obviously, like just to play around, mess with, of course, just buy it. But if you're not somebody who gets a lot of Robux, I wouldn't buy it because data is going to reset. And it's not like you get like a week early of grind. It's going to be like a few months. Like, I don't think that's supposed to reset to the end of December. So that's you playing for 3 months and then your data resets. So that's one big red flag. And it's not a lot of content just yet. I know the dungeon's not even coming to next weekend. So there's not a lot. You're not really missing out on a lot except that first experience. And once again, you're not missing on something that's permanent. All data is going to be wiped, so I think you get like an aura. Like that's it. So personally, I don't think it's something you should have to rush to buy. Now, if you, like I said, if you have, you want to check it out, go for it, of course. But this is off my first person. Now we'll see if it's end up being like mad fun. Then I'll definitely say it's worth the 400 Robux. But knowing that data will be reset is always going to be a huge like red flag for buying the game, just because like that's a lot of time and hours for a grind game that you're going to lose. But yeah, it says explore the open world Swordburst 3, challenge bosses, collect rare loot, upgrade equipment, and open PvP. This game is an alpha, expect issues, only play if you're willing to experience the in-development project as it grows and evolves. There will be data resets after alpha. So yeah, 400 Robux, let's buy Smart. This is the game. All right, let's go ahead and buy this game, and I can't buy it. So I was originally going to do this video like I normally do it, where I get on, I'll play, go to the area, just like a live commentary type of thing. But I kind of want to sit down and just kind of like discuss a few points of the game and give my overview. I ended up playing for like two-ish hours, maybe a little bit longer. It took a while to get online, so I can't know exactly how long. But I'm gonna highlight a couple areas. So we're gonna talk about the gameplay, we're gonna talk about the combat, we're gonna talk about our pros and cons, and then we'll do our closing remarks and just how we overall feel about the game. So yeah, let's get straight into this. So the overall gameplay flow structure of what you're going to be doing in the game is pretty standard to what you can kind of expect. It doesn't break away from any norms, doesn't introduce anything, but it just kind of does kind of what you expect. You'll go from area to area, and you generally have like 2 quests. You'll have like the first quest, which is going to be a repeatable quest, and you'll kill the local mobs in the area, whether that's going to be wolves or crabs or boars or bears, whatever the local area mob is. You'll kill that mob. That's going to be your repeatable quest. And then after you level 1 more time, you'll come back. You'll have like this one-time quest, which kind of breaks away from different. Or one time it was kill. It's like the first couple times it's like kill 10 of those exact same area mobs. Then the second time it may ask you to kill something else or travel somewhere else. And then one of the times it was kill like the mini boss. And that's generally going to be that one-time quest that you're going to do. Every time you enter a new area, you're going to have like some waste shrine that you can collect. There's going to usually be a chest in every single area to give you something random that you're probably never going to remember that you got it from. And there's going to be some new armors, and there's going to be some new weapons in that area. Currently, there's only 2 weapons. There's 2 weapons in the game, but there's 3 weapon styles. So you can get long swords, you can get great swords, and you can get dual wield if you buy the game pass. Each weapon type opens up its own weapon skills. So there are some shared skills, but generally, one sword is going to have its own weapon or own skills. Dual wield is going to have its own skill, and great sword is going to have its own skills, which I'm happy with it. I like how it's opened up. At each level, you kind of see on your menu. You can see at level 1 you're going to get X amount of skills that you can buy and upgrade, and then at level 5 you get like some skills, and it just leaves the door open for them to keep adding more skills, which I'm surprisingly enjoying. But we'll talk about a little bit more about the skills and stuff like that once we get into the combat area. And generally, you're going to be following the same route of go to the area, get some skills, you're going to buy some armors. You're going to get it's 1 armor, and it's going to be one weapon at a time. And each one's going to have their own stats. Obviously, there's several stats that right now you can't really make any type of like build diversity. So you're going to get the best armor and get the best defense. But hopefully, they open it in the future where, because there's a lot of stats in the game, and hopefully you kind of like mix and match what kind of build that you kind of want to go. And that's really how you're going to farm. You can upgrade your armors, upgrade your weapons. Very formulated, similar to Swordburst 2. The only difference is you're gonna have quests. That's pretty much the only difference so far. You're gonna have quests. Now, one difference in the gameplay overall is bosses. Bosses are now, you can't walk in and join the fight. Who's ever in the boss as it queues up is going to be locked off, which I actually personally like. And overall, bosses was a lot more challenging and than I expected. I was actually down a few times, and one of the reasons is because the boss, like the hitboxes, the bosses just kept moving around. But overall, I was impressed by how it felt. You know what I'm saying? The overall gameplay, it was generic to say the least, but it felt mind-numbing. I will say one thing I didn't like was the XP grind. Like the XP level didn't increase, so for the most part I was just grinding like a level 4 or 5 quest, and I was level up faster than I would grinding higher quests. So I would definitely take some time. I would tell them to look back at like the XP gains, but we can talk about that more in our pros and cons. But yeah, that's gonna be your general flow of the gameplay. Nothing special. I mean, it works kind of what you expect, but it works well. Now let's talk about the combat. Now, I thought the combat was going to be the weak point of the game. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I thought it was gonna be one of the lower points. I can gladly say that the videos that they shown and the showcases didn't do the combat justice. It feels a lot better than I expected. And it also looks a lot better than I expected as well. Like looking at it from my point of view, then looking at like the game, like when they show out the trailers, I don't know if it's probably like on one graphics or whatever, but it looks a lot better on my screen, and it feels a lot better as well. The skills feel really good to use. They're really nice. I like the diversity in them. Now, obviously we need more. We need more of this for sure. I don't want to slow down on me, but right now I'm thoroughly impressed with the combat, which I didn't think I would be. Now, I don't think PvP is going to be any fun at all, and I'm not expecting. I'm not playing this game for PvP. I haven't experienced PvP yet, so I can't say anything about that. But just overall fighting mobs and using skills and dodging and just overall the combat is surprisingly solid. It's surprisingly solid. No, it's not no GPO, it's not no deep bulking, it's nothing like crazy like that. But it is a vast improvement on Swordburst 2. It feels infinitely times better than any Swordburst 2 is not even comparable how good this game feels to that game. And if you like that game, there's no reason for you not to like this aspect of the game, because it's overall better. It's very mobile, and your dashes, you have a dash meter, so using your dash meter and like especially like fighting bosses, knowing when to dash in and out actually becomes it's not super mind. You have to put a bit of thought into it, especially with fighting like the later bosses, and I can only imagine how well it's going to get as the game grows over time. So combat, like I said, I'm impressed by it. Like, I'm not mind blown by it, but I'm impressed by it because I enjoyed it and I was having fun playing the combat, which is always a good thing. Once again, remember, I gotta say this, these are all my personal opinions on the game. So yeah, I'm just overall impressed. Only thing, we're gonna turn our pros and cons and talk about that. So yes, the combat, like I said, go back to the little skills a bit more. Like I said, each weapon had its own skills, so I did like that. Each weapon seemed like, at least the two swords had their own like dash skills, like move around. Each character I think put on the healing skill as well as the agility skills, so it's going to be utility skills as well. Hopefully they have like defensive skills and maybe party buffs and stuff like that. I would like to see that in the future with some of the skills as well. They had like some range skills like some Jessicas, they had barrages, they had pretty much everything you need. But I definitely want to see some more buffs and utility skills as well in the future. That's definitely going to be really nice. Yeah, overall impressed about the combat. So let's get into what we liked about the game and what we disliked about the game. So let's talk about dislikes first. Let's talk about dislikes. Let's cover those first. So the first thing I disliked was I talked about a bit was the linear progression of the XP game. It felt really bad. There's no reason why I should be having to grind wolves. Now, overall, there's always going to be optimization. I do this in every game I play in RPG. I'll find something I can just kill fast, and I feel like it's always going to be a bit better because I'm stronger than it, and it's a bunch of it. I can just kill it fast and level up. That wasn't always that wasn't just the case. Another issue of why the XP was because you wasn't getting that much. Like, you wasn't getting like, as the area going, you was getting like 5 extra XP per kill, so that wasn't significant. The XP gains wasn't significant. Like, you went from getting 400 per quest to like 500, and then like 4 or 5 more quests, you only get like 490. So the XP just stopped going up. It wasn't worth it. And then the mobs there just didn't spawn as much. Like, you have the wolf area where you're getting like 15, 20 wolves, and then you have the bear area when it's only like 4 bears. I didn't understand that, so that was a problem. And after the wolves, that was a problem in every single area, that it just wasn't enough spawning. and they was too far apart. Wasn't a fan of it at all. Like to max, I'll probably still farm the boars. Now let's talk about the bosses. This is the next thing I like. It's the area I liked about the bosses, the area I didn't like about the bosses. So one thing about the bosses, while they did feel a lot better than the old bosses that had like different mechanics, the hitboxes were really weird on the bosses. Like when you fight them and they got their big red thing, they would move. Like they would cast a skill and they're like still spinning around, moving, and it made it really hard to dodge. Like if the skill's about to slam, it's a big AoE about to slam and he just does a 180 turn. How are you supposed to prepare for that? And sometimes like it just wasn't accurate and he would still get hit. So I definitely would like to see them lock the boss, like at least towards the end of the game he can't move, he's like put in place and the hitbox stays there. Because I don't know what the point of a red indicator is if it's going to move at the very last second. That doesn't help me if it just moves at the very last second and still hits me. So that I definitely didn't like that, and that was with all the bosses. The hitboxes felt a little wonky, and they just moving across the skills. So yeah, that I won't call it a con yet, but I definitely need to see some diversity in builds. Like we have all these stats, but we can't interact with those stats. Like there was crit, there was speed, there was a bunch of some regions, and there's supposed to be elemental stuff. I don't know how we're supposed to get to those things. So for right now, that's a negative for me. I assume like the goes into the boss, like if they, you know, I don't want, it is a negative because we didn't have access to it yet, but I don't think it stays a negative. Because I mean, I just need ways to interact with it. I'm worried about it only being a one arm, like you get one armor, right? I didn't see like no enchanting, there's no like rings, there's no like helmet pieces. So I do think builds are going to end up being boring. Like you got like, when you get a new area, it's gonna be two, three new armors. Like you don't need control over how you kind of want to design your character with all these different stats. So I feel like that's gonna be limited to this. So I definitely like to see some possibility in the future where we just have more control over how we want to build it. Because earlier I really wanted to make a speed movement build, like where I can just really cater to speed, lower my damage, and just work with speed. But there was no way I could spec into that. So that's definitely negative to me because I definitely want a bit more control over the choices that I make for my character build. So far, those are my only cons at the moment. Simply because there's nothing. The game is very limited of what you can test, so I can't really talk about anything else and how other aspects of the game are going to play out. So that concludes the cons. Let's talk about some things I liked about the game. Visually, it actually looked really good, which I did think it was going to look good. Like it looked good, it felt good, and hold on, I do got one more con. The game was very laggy. I gotta go back to the cons. I forgot about that. It was very laggy. It was a lot of lag spikes. It wasn't extremely laggy. It wasn't unplayable laggy, but like holy, you be having like 60 ping and then you spike to 300 often. It definitely needs some optimization. I forgot there. But back to the pros. Felt good, looked good when you wasn't laggy. It played well. The maps are great, the colors, everything like that, just vibrant. The mobs look good. The animations are from a little, but overall it's very eye candy. I didn't expect this. Like I said, everything is flow well. Like looking at these skills, they're not amazing effects, but it just flowed really well with the world, and it worked. It worked really good. I was very satisfied while playing the game, which is always a good thing. The combat, like I said, the combat is setting up to be fun. You know what I'm saying? The bosses had like mechanics, like nothing crazy, but that bosses had patterns so what you can learn. Like, as I was fighting the crystal boss at the end, we were starting to like learn like what gaps in the skills that you can attack and things like that. So it was improvements. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think this is going to grow as we get more bosses, and I like the fact that you couldn't have it wasn't going to be 100 people on the boss. Like you couldn't just come in later, start swinging. And I like that. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully the dungeon is limited. I'm very hoping that you can't do 20 people in dungeon and that you can only get X amount of people. And so there is definitely some type of challenge aspect behind it. But yeah, overall, I like that. The combat, like I said, I was very impressed by the combat. I enjoyed it. It felt really fluid. The combat, like the skills flow well. You can cancel, well, not cancel the skills, but you can like, you know, you're in place. You can dash out of the skills to avoid attacks. You're never like locked in place. Like World Zero, you're locked in place during all this because I couldn't stand that with my life. You're locked in. You're not locked while in one. Just overall, the combat feels really good. Improvements across the board for Swordburst 2. Yeah, I think that concludes my pros. I do think there can be more pros. It's depend on, a lot of my pros and cons for the future are going to depend on what the devs do going forward. There's a lot of unknowns in the game and how things are going to play out. So remember, these are just my first impressions of about 2 to 3 hours on the game. And just closing remarks. Overall, impressed by the game. I do think the game is going to do really well. I didn't think at first. Like going in, I didn't think the game was going to be good. I'm not gonna lie to you, the game's a lot better than I expected. And I don't know if it's because I didn't have crazy expectations for the game, but just overall, I like, okay, this is going to be a solid game. It's Swordburst 2, but improved. It's everything I wanted for Swordburst 2, with the movement and the skills, and just overall feels a lot better. You know what I'm saying? This is what I thought World Zeroes were originally going to be. This is how it feels, or what I thought World Zeroes originally going to be, and I'm happy with that. I do think there's still a lot of areas to improvement, and I do still think there's a lot of things I wish they would have did with the combat, but just overall, I think it's solid. I don't think it's an amazing game, and I still don't think it's worth 400 Robux. Even though I liked it, I don't think you should buy it right now. It's still not worth really putting for. You're gonna get your stats reset, and it wasn't that fun to where I can warrant like losing all your stats and stuff like that. So it's grindy. So you gotta put hours, you gotta put a lot of time into the game to get your stat reset. So I still don't think it's worth it. But if you do, I do think like, okay, it's cool. It's a solid game. It's definitely a game I'm going to continue to play and definitely grind a bit here and there. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.